The Tonight Show studio felt unusually calm that evening, the air thick with a gentle, expectant silence, unusual for a live broadcast. The powerful stage lights were warm, casting soft shadows. The audience seemed subdued, and JimmyFallon was noticeably in one of his softer, more contemplative moods. It was the kind of atmosphere where laughter was a little quieter, and the host looked people in the eyes a little longer, searching for connection. The band played a mellow, understated tune as AdamDriver walked out, tall and profoundly composed. That familiar, quiet presence instantly and completely filled the entire large room the moment he stepped onto the brightly lit stage. He smiled briefly, perhaps a touch awkwardly, shook Jimmy's hand with his usual firmness, and settled onto the comfortable couch. The audience applauded warmly, a sound of appreciation, not frenzy. AdamDriver always carried an unspoken, visible heaviness, a focused intensity in his demeanor. But tonight, something in the air felt distinctly different, almost anticipatory, like the studio collectively knew something he was about to discover. Jimmy began with the traditional small talk, the details of the new movie, brief life updates, the usual light banter required of the format. Adam answered patiently, offering his characteristic dry, understated humor, and the audience laughed lightly, politely. It was shaping up to be an entirely normal, predictable interview, running precisely according to the scheduled plan. Until Jimmy, mid-sentence, glanced abruptly toward the audience, paused completely, and slowly tilted his head in sudden curiosity. "Hold on a minute. I think something unexpected is happening in the third row," he whispered into his microphone, his voice conveying sudden seriousness. Adam turned his head, his focus shifting instantly from the conversation to the crowd. A very young boy, maybe no older than 9 years old, was standing. He was small, visibly nervous, and holding something large in both of his trembling hands. The object was primarily black. It looked jagged. It was clearly cracked in multiple places. It took the entire studio crew and the audience a long moment to fully register the object's identity. It was a deeply broken, heavily scarred replica of the Kylo Ren helmet. Adam blinked once, then twice, processing the sudden intrusion of his famous character into the reality of the show. Jimmy blinked in parallel. The entire audience instantly fell into a profound, total silence. The boy swallowed hard, took a small step out from his row into the aisle, and began walking toward the stage. He moved one tiny, careful step at a time, his motion deliberate and slow. Beside him, a woman, his mother, stood with one gentle, guiding hand placed lightly on his shoulder. The closer the small figure came, the clearer and more devastating the object became. The helmet wasn't simply dropped or carelessly played with, it was visibly shattered at the top. Jagged, sharp edges pointed outward, looking like something heavy and immovable had violently fallen upon it. One side of the helmet's shell was deeply dented inward, permanently deformed. The signature red visor strip was heavily scratched, parts of it rubbed white. It was clearly not a toy that had been dropped. It carried the devastating scars of a genuine catastrophe. Jimmy, sensing the immense gravity and unspoken tragedy in the object, immediately came around from behind his desk. "Hey buddy, are you okay? Is everything all right?" he asked, his voice soft and deeply concerned. The boy didn't respond verbally. He simply continued his slow walk toward the stage. He raised one small hand, a slow, careful, deliberate motion, and tucked 2 fingers gently behind his ear. A small, subtle hearing aid glinted briefly under the bright stage light. Jimmy's face softened instantly, his posture relaxing into profound empathy. Adam shifted forward slightly in his seat, his gaze locked on the boy, watching him with an intense, quiet curiosity. The mother spoke quietly from the aisle, explaining the unspoken reality. "He can hear sounds a little, sir, but he hasn't spoken any words. He hasn't spoken in almost a year now." Adam's dark eyebrows pulled together in profound sadness. Something inside him visibly melted, softening his entire demeanor. The boy reached the stage, lifting the broken helmet, this dark, scarred symbol of the character Adam once played, and held it out. His small hands trembled profoundly, not out of simple fear of the moment, but something much deeper, much heavier. Adam stood slowly, rising to his full height in front of the audience. The entire room inhaled as one, recognizing the deep significance of the silent confrontation. He approached the boy with painstaking slowness, then knelt carefully so their eyes were perfectly aligned. He didn't immediately touch the helmet. He wanted the boy to see his face, his true intention, the sincerity in his eyes. "Is that, by any chance, for me, mate?" Adam asked gently, his voice low and incredibly kind. The boy nodded once, very small, very slow, very definite. Adam reached out both of his large hands, taking the helmet as carefully and gingerly as if it were indeed made of fragile glass. The unexpected weight of the object surprised him. It wasn't just thin plastic. Something was tucked inside, and he could feel it shift internally. "What exactly happened to it, buddy?" Adam whispered, his voice catching slightly. The mother blinked rapidly, struggling visibly to swallow a surge of raw emotion. His little brother loved Kylo Ren deeply, absolutely adored him. It was his absolute favorite thing in the entire world. They played with that helmet every single day. They had daily lightsaber duels in the living room. They meticulously recreated all your movie scenes, everything, sir. Adam listened intently, his famous eyes locked firmly on hers, absorbing every painful detail. The mother continued quietly, her voice trembling slightly, but retaining its strength. "Last winter, our two boys were playing in the backyard together. His little brother climbed the old weak tree in the corner. The branch snapped suddenly. He fell." The audience completely stilled, arrested by the simple, brutal finality of the words. Not a breath was heard, not a single sound. The mother's voice quivered profoundly, breaking momentarily. This specific helmet, it fell with him when the branch broke. Adam's hand unconsciously tightened slightly around the scarred object. The huge, jagged crack suddenly meant something devastatingly real and painful. "He held that helmet every night, right up until the last," she said, finally steadying her voice with massive effort. "It was the last thing he consciously touched." Adam looked at the standing boy again, his own eyes glistening intensely. The boy raised his small, trembling hand and slowly held out a small, carefully folded piece of paper. Adam took the note gently, his fingers brushing the boy's. He opened the paper slowly. It was written in a child's uneven, messy, determined handwriting, spelled out clearly in thick blue marker. "Fix this for my brother. He still hears you in the silence." Adam's breath caught harshly in his throat. The finality of the plea was overwhelming. He glanced quickly back at the mother, seeking confirmation and understanding. "He thought Kylo Ren, he thought you, would know exactly what to do," she whispered, tears forming in her own eyes. "He believed you'd know how to fix things that are truly broken, like a hero." Adam placed his large hand over his mouth, absorbing the raw, pure belief. His eyes glistened with unshed tears. The boy tugged lightly on Adam's sleeve. Not urgently, not frantically, just enough to be recognized and seen. He reached slowly into his pocket and pulled out a tiny, specific object. A small, distinct red Lego piece. Adam knew it instantly. It was the specialized red piece that formed the crossguard from Kylo Ren's Lego lightsaber. The boy gently pressed the tiny piece into Adam's palm and carefully curled Adam's long fingers around it, securing the small, vital component. Adam looked profoundly shaken and deeply moved by the ritual. Jimmy watched the entire exchange silently, his hand placed over his heart in reverence. The Roots, sensing the depth of the tragedy, stopped playing completely and entirely. Even the massive studio cameras seemed to pause their mechanical whirring, focusing only on the two figures. Adam lowered himself slowly, deliberately, to sit right on the edge of the stage, bringing himself directly in front of the boy. Their knees almost touched, the physical connection intimate and real. "Can I show you something about the helmet?" Adam asked softly, his voice gentle and low. The boy nodded, his eyes wide and fixed on Adam's face. Adam carefully turned the broken helmet over, revealing the inside padding and the cracked plastic. There, tucked securely between the cracked plastic shell and the soft inner padding, was another small folded piece of paper. He gently pulled the second note out. This paper was clearly older, softer, its edges completely worn down from handling. He opened it slowly, revealing the contents. It was a simple, innocent drawing. 2 stick figures wielding lightsabers. 1 figure tall, 1 figure small. Above them, written in a child's earlier, more confident handwriting, "My brother is my hero always." The audience gasped quietly, a collective profound sound of realization. Someone could be heard sobbing gently in the back row. Jimmy covered his mouth, completely overwhelmed by the raw, intimate discovery. Adam's voice broke completely on the first word. "Your brother loved you so incredibly much." The boy's eyes filled instantly with profound tears, not dramatic, not loud, just quiet, heavy tears, like the emotion he'd held inside for a year was finally allowed release. Adam gently touched the boy's shoulder and then his small hand. "You're the one who kept the final promise. You were brave enough to bring this here. You, my friend, are the real hero." The boy nodded once, squeezing Adam's large fingers tightly in response. Adam inhaled shakily, gathering his composure. He took the red Lego piece and placed it gently onto the cracked helmet. He pressed it gently into a small, jagged crack where it fit perfectly, like the piece had been waiting for that exact moment, for that specific repair. The boy watched, completely captivated by the first act of fixing. Adam whispered, his voice thick with emotion, "There, that's the first piece, the hardest piece. We will fix it completely together." The boy's breath hitched again. His shoulders shook silently with deep, contained sorrow. Adam pulled the small figure into a careful, strong, warm embrace, protective, steady, profoundly present. The audience cried openly, now unashamedly sharing the grief. Jimmy wiped his face again. The mother pressed a hand tightly to her mouth. Adam stayed like that, holding the boy, until the silent shaking finally eased and subsided. Finally, he pulled back just enough to look directly and intensely into the boy's eyes. "You are absolutely not alone," he said clearly. "Your brother is right here in this helmet in this room, and we're going to keep his memory with us." The boy nodded again, this time more confidently, accepting the shared mission. Adam handed him the newly discovered drawing. "This beautiful picture belongs with you always." The boy hugged the small piece of paper tightly to his chest. Then Adam placed the broken helmet gently back into the boy's hands. "And this, we'll fix. Together. I promise." The studio was silent, reverent, changed completely by the exchange. Adam stood slowly, keeping one comforting hand firmly on the boy's small shoulder. Jimmy walked over, resting a gentle, supportive palm on the child's back. No punchlines were delivered. No commercial break was cued. No applause broke the sacred quiet. Just the warm light, the quiet collective breath, and a small child holding a broken helmet that suddenly, miraculously, didn't feel broken anymore, fade to black.